Good afternoon, everybody. How are you today? I hope you're well. What started as a really bright, beautiful morning has now turned into an afternoon, and it's getting darker and darker by the minute, and windier, and I have a feeling I might not get done this afternoon what I want to, but I'm going to push on anyway because I'm so behind with jobs in the garden, as I was saying in the previous video, and probably the one before that. The weather in October and personal things in November have just conspired to shrink my time in the garden. So, the jobs for today. I've got two jobs, both of them, well, one of them in particular, I think it's going to be probably a bit of a heavy, grunty job because the ground is really wet and my soil, when it's wet, is like, it weighs a ton. And, you know, ideally, I wouldn't really want to be doing today what I'm going to do when the ground is so wet. However, this is the time I've got, and they're both jobs I want to tackle before the spring, because when we get to the spring, you all know what it's like. It's crazy bonkers in the garden, and I'm sure you're all the same. I'm sure you've all got a really long list of jobs you wanted to and planned to do over this summer, and they didn't happen because the garden just gets so busy looking after the plants, harvesting, dealing with the food, you know, the produce, storing it. So this is the ideal time, if the weather allows, to get on with those things. One thing I didn't do is I wanted to put another coat of paint on the shed, but that didn't happen, and it's certainly not going to happen now. It's too cold. I won't get a good fix with my paint. So back to today. It's looking very inclement out there, but never mind. One of the jobs I'm going to do today is going to involve using... Can you see what it is? Yes, it's a roof slate. These are like gold dust these days. Once upon a time, you would walk past a skip and see tons of roof slates in them. And they're great. They're great for scrounging for the garden. You know, you can cut them down, make them into plant labels that the foxes aren't going to bother with. And you know, it's a really beautiful, attractive material, slate. So as plant labels, gorgeous. And if any of you have ever bought slate plant labels ready-made, you'll know how expensive they are. So it's great for plant labels. All sorts of things in the garden. I'll show you what I'm going to do with it in a minute. But yeah, they're so few and far between these days. And I think it's because, you know, when builders are ripping a roof off and putting a new one on, they know the value of this gorgeous old slate. In a lot of cases in London, when these roofs are getting changed, this is probably a Victorian roof, almost certainly pre-World War II roof. So yeah, the builders have cottoned on to knowing that this stuff has value. I know a lot of them get recycled and reused on roofs, which is great, but it does mean that scrounging is really, really difficult. I'm always looking for slates, always, and basically never finding them. So I've got 4 of these today, 2 that size, kind of standard roof slate size, and 2 which are a bit smaller, which were a gift, thank you so much, from Paul, when Richard and Paul came to see me in the summer when it was my birthday. Bless him, Paul logged these over in his backpack all the way from far out wacky West London. So I'm really, really grateful, and finally I'm going to get to use them. So, massive black cloud, come on, I think it's quick sticks today. Let's get into the garden and get working. Right then, gird your loins. Problem bed number 1, the fennel bed. So, first of all, it's grown right across this path, and that's just not fair on my pot neighbours. This whole path should be clear for everyone and anyone to use. I was thinking about leaving it in for seed saving. I checked my seeds. I do have quite a lot of seed left that I can use next year. So I'm going to kill a couple of birds with one stone today. The fact that it's lying across the path is a bit of an issue, but the problem that I want to tackle today is what's growing underneath, and it's the bindweed. So I'm going to have all the fennel out. I just want to show you though. Oh, can I pull it? Oh. It was about this time last year, when I was getting rid of the very last of last year's, that someone told me that the roots are edible. It's not the prettiest day today, never mind. Yeah, someone was telling me that the roots were edible, and I thought, Now, they're a bit fiddly and gnarly to get clean, but oh my goodness, it was so worth it. I tried fennel root soup last year, there is a video of it, and it was gorgeous. It doesn't taste at all like fennel, which was really, really weird. So I'm going to have all of these out today. I'm going to save my roots. I'm going to save some of my green parts for some stock making probably, but the rest of it I'm just going to chop up. And you remember where I was doing the flint corn bed just next to it, and I put all that compost on. I didn't actually cover it, I've left it uncovered on purpose, because as I chop all this, it's just going to literally be dropped onto that bed. It'll make the job much quicker. I'll literally just stand there, chop, chop, chop over that bed, get that bed covered. Then I can come back to the fennel bed and start dealing with this pesky bindweed problem. And I'm going to show you a quick tip as well for dealing with the bindweed when it's the height of season and you can't dig it out, but you don't want it to strangle the plants that are actually growing in that bed. You're going to go flying, I think. Right, I'm going to get chopping and dropping. And when I've done that, I'll bring you back. And hopefully this weather might have blown through by then. I don't think so. Oh, can't see a thing. Oh, so frustrating. Since I turned the camera off to clear the fennel bed, it has been drizzling really quite hard, and now it's raining. I mean, it's like properly raining. I'm really, really cold because that wind, oh my goodness, it's been biting. Well, look, normally if it was just drizzle, I'd carry on working, but combination of, well, it's not drizzle anymore, it's rain, that cold wind, and it's cold temperature anyway. There's no point trying to be a hero, is there? We're not any of us going to get a medal for stay out in the garden in the freezing cold and the pouring rain. So I think everything is going to have to wait until tomorrow. I don't know if you can tell by the light how dark it is. That's a tautology, isn't it? Yeah, I could feel that light changing even towards the end of this morning when I was doing the flint corn in the other video. It's really frustrating, but never mind. That's some good work started today. And especially, well, you will have seen it by now anyway, the flint corn, getting that flint corn out, great, because that had been on my mind. It looks like, I just don't know whether to trust the weather forecast at the moment. Today was supposed to be dry all day, so I checked the forecast on Sunday when I emerged from my migraine cocoon. Dry all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday. I thought, brilliant, fabulous, 2 full days in the garden, make up for lost time. Checked again yesterday, 2 full dry days, yay. Looked this morning, and they did say that there might be rain this afternoon. Hopefully though, it's going to be dry tomorrow. So I'm going to just quickly wrap up there. I'm not going to say cheerio, because hopefully I will continue exactly where I've left off, dealing with the bindweed in the fennel bed, and then playing with those slates from Paul. We'll do it tomorrow. So fingers crossed it'll be dry tomorrow. For now though, I'm going to go home, get my hands around something hot because they're so cold and numb. I've got to get home in the rain. It's getting heavier and darker. I'll see you back in a minute on another day. I'm back, yay! So it's the next day. Oh my goodness, I got soaked to the skin yesterday getting home. But never mind, that's fine. It was a rainy afternoon. I just did other stuff. Never mind all that, let's get back on with the job in hand. The bindweed, and then later on I'm going to be using the slates. So I've probably been saying this quite a lot in the last few videos, and probably in the next few videos to come. Ideally, this is a job I would have done, probably in September, just into October, because the bindweed has all started to die back. I don't even know if you'll be able to pick it up. There's a little bit, there's a little bits over there. It would just have made the job easier in terms of being able to see it and having more to grab hold of. But never mind, now is the time I've got to do it. We'll get onto that in a second, but I just want to share with you one of my little tips for dealing with it, as I was mentioning, at the height of the season. So let's imagine you've got a bed full of anything, carrots, lettuces, whatever it is, and the bindweed is coming up. You can't dig down to get it out by the roots, but the last thing you want is it just sort of taking over, strangling those plants out, hideous stuff. So my tip is this: a cane. So where you see, let's start on this little tiny piece here. I really don't know if you can make that out. Can you make that out? Anyway, pop the cane in right next door to where the bindweed is coming up, and then just train the bindweed. Well, you won't need to train it. Initially, just introduce it to the cane, and then what it will do is it will love the cane as a growing support. It will grow up the cane throughout the course of the season. Then, once you've harvested whatever it is in that bed, you can see really clearly where it's come up. Get the bed emptied of whatever the veg was that was in there, and then get your fork in and dig down as far as you can go and get that pest out. The thing about bindweed is you're pretty much never going to be rid of it. I don't know if there are chemicals which get rid of it. I've no idea, because obviously I don't use them. I'm organic. So it's one of those things you just have to learn to live with it, not get too freaked out by it, and just keep pulling it whenever you can. It does weaken the plant, so that in time you just get these little bits coming up, which shouldn't bother you too much. But the main thing is, like I say, learn to live with it. There is something else you could try. As they're coming up like this, with an old plastic drinks bottle, is to say this is the bottom of the bottle and this is the top, so this is the neck. Slot it down, cut the bottom off, slot it down onto the bindweed, so the bindweed is contained within the plastic bottle, and then you could spray it with some hydrogen peroxide, which breaks down harmlessly. Hydrogen peroxide does work on some weeds. I've never tried it on bindweed, but that might be worth a go too. You would need to do that in dry weather, of course. So yes, that's my little tip. Get your stick in. And the other thing, my other tip when trying to get them out, is use a fork, not a spade. When you're going down, ideally what you want to do is loosen the soil away from its roots, so you can follow that root down as far as possible and try to pull out the root as a whole thing. Like I say, you're never going to get it out completely, because that root's going to go down and down and down. It's probably coming out the other side in Australia. If you use I was going to say a knife as the opposite of fork. If you use a spade, the danger is that where the plant, say this is the surface of the soil and the plant is showing here, it may be that actually as it goes down, it's wiggling and the root's going down that way. If you use a spade, the chances are you're just going to chop that root up, and then you're going to end up with a couple of little plants, which none of us want, which is why I would never, ever, ever recommend using a rotavator in beds where you have nasty perennials like bindweed. By all means use a rotavator in beds that are weed free, but never where you've got bindweed, because all you will do is chop it up into 20-30 little pieces, spread it out, and then you've got a whole newly propagated bed of bindweed. Right, let's get stuck in and see how much of this blasted stuff we can get out. Oh, and the other thing just to say is, even if I was to, you know, cover this with cardboard and all the compost, what have you, it's still going to come up. What you quite often find is with the covered beds, as we go into spring, I have it in the end of bed number 2 where I've got the cathedral bed this year, so I'll also be tackling it there. That's one of the last beds to get opened up in the spring, by which time the bindweed is growing again. So despite all that covering all winter, what you'll find is it's come up, it's not green, and it's not quite so vigorous. It's going to be really white and anemic looking, but it's still going to come up. So don't think you can take a shortcut of just putting some cardboard down, chucking some compost on the top, and that's your bindweed solution, because it's not going to work. Well, if it works, it'll be miraculous, let me know. No, don't. I don't want to know about your miracle bindweed solution. Anyway, right, let's get stuck in and see how much of this we can get out on this beautiful morning. Oh, I've just seen, just jumped. Kay, my friend Kay is down. Oh, she's
lurking in the shadows.
How are you, Mrs. Kay, the lucky sausage, has got a holiday, so what better place to spend your holiday than in the garden? Yay! Right, we'll start digging in a second. I think we've got some catching up to do. You're right, Mrs.
I'm very good.
Right then, so gently does it. That's my first piece. Oh, you can see as soon as I move a bit of soil away, actually there's 2. So, giving myself a little bit of space. Just want to kind of ease the soil away from it. Oh, that's fennel root. I was actually just chatting with, I was chatting with Kay, and then because it's such a lovely day, it's brought out a few other folk who are trying to make the most of playing catch up. And I was talking to a couple of other neighbours about dealing with bindweed, and we were talking about the whole getting them out and soaking them in water, as in leaving them completely covered in water, in order to kill them off enough to then put them in the compost. But I've got to say, that's fennel. I've never been brave enough to try that. I'd just be so worried that I hadn't completely killed it, so it would come back. So you can see that's all that was above ground. You see that? And oh look, horrible stuff. That's what I mean about using the fork, because I want it to be able to sort of, the plant itself, slip through the tines of the fork, and as I'm doing it I can feel how, or see how the root is going sideways a bit. So another lift up, and it's broken, but let's have a little look. Well, that's a really good chunk of it out. So, like I said, that was the bit above ground, and then all of this, all of this was below ground. Get right to the end here. Can you see that bit there? So that's where it's just snapped off now. It's inevitable that it will snap off, but the bit that snapped that's still in the ground will regrow, but hopefully at less of a pace. Right, let me get the rest done. Okay, well, That's done now. It is a bit of an effort, but it's worth it every now and again to be thorough like this. Oh, I've just spotted one more bit of root just lying on the top there. The only thing with doing this, I've gone down about a fork's depth, a little bit more, is, can you make that out? I've gone down and I've hit clay. This is what I have, absolutely solid clay, about 10-12 inches down. Yuck. However, this is really nutrient dense, so I will just split it into smaller chunks and spread it through the bed. Ideally I wouldn't like to go down that far and bring this stuff up, but hopefully it's worth it to give me a couple of years of slightly less nasty bindweed coming up, and this is the result. Horrid stuff, absolutely horrid. Look how much there is. Now all of this, I'll show you, that's from, there were about 4 plants visible above the surface of the soil. Look at masses and masses and masses. You can see this root is quite a bit thicker. Let me try and show you this one. So that's obviously a much older and more established bit. Quite a lot of what I was bringing out was more like this thickness, so you can see how over the years of just pulling and pulling and pulling, it does weaken it. Right, good job done. Let's move on to problem invasive plant and bed number 2. Right then, I need to get that fennel bed, ex-fennel bed, covered in compost in a second, but I'm just going to move on to this job because it's going to be a bit of a huffing and puffing one, I think, and I want to just get it done. So, there are my slates ready. If you remember in previous videos, I showed it in particular when I was harvesting my broad beans. I have this rogue raspberry. There's a bit. There have been bits here and here that keep coming up each year, and they're actually coming under the path from this raspberry here. I'm sure I've mentioned before, my current neighbours, they didn't plant this, they inherited it, but I would always say, don't plant so closely to a boundary because they are going to sneak under the path and come up in the bed. For the most part, I can just sort of snip them off, that sort of thing. But it is a nuisance when, for instance, not last year, year before, this was my carrot bed. So of course it's interfering with my carrot root development. So the plan today, like I said, it might be a bit of a huffy and puffy one, is to dig sort of around that bit of the path there and down this side, and then slot these slates in to hopefully form a bit of a barrier. Now, it may mean that then the raspberry wants to come up in the path, but hey, no matter, you know, I strim it often enough, and at least, even if it comes up in the path, it won't be interfering with my crops anymore. So that's the plan. My fork and spade are ready. Let's get stuck in. Okay, let's make a bit of space to work with first of all. This actually is going to be the parsnip bed next year. Parsnip? That doesn't sound right. So all the more reason to tackle the issue now. This is all the old cocoa de pea. Just let's get it out, make a bit of space. Riofsky?
Yeah, get some lunch.
Cheerio. Are you back later? So I will get on with getting this all chopped down, and it's going to go straight back on this bed, along with all the leaf foliage detritus from the flint corn. I'm trying to, you know, I want to get the beds covered ASAP because of all the rain, but I'm also slightly prioritising in terms of when I am down here, because we never know how long session is going to last because of the weather, and and how many days I'm going to get down here. So some beds are not being covered as quickly as I would like, just because I'm getting on with other stuff. But that's okay, it will all happen. I'm just using the fork initially because if there are bits down there, I want to find them with the fork. I want to sort of let the soil fall away, find them so I can follow them as far back as possible to get rid of them before I put the slates in. Ooh la la! Gosh, it's Worm City. There's a little bit. It actually feels a bit odd now. I'm not no dig. I can't afford to cover this whole garden in 4 inches of compost. It cost a fortune. So no, I'm not no dig, but I'm trying to be less dig. And so it feels a bit naughty to be doing this digging type stuff today. Right. But it's a one-off to solve a problem. There's a bit more. Right. I'm going to carry on, see how far down I can get, and see about jamming these slates in. Yeah, let's get the spade on it now. Oh la la. Oh, that's a bit of a grunt job. Okay, let's see if I've gone deep enough. I want to sink, obviously I want to sink it below the level of the soil, because apart from anything, when I'm strimming, I don't want to catch my strimmer blade each time, because it will just wreck it. Oh, don't need that big rock down there. Oh, there we go, down to clay. Just, as I was showing you with the fennel bed, that's what my soil sits on, and that is, well, you can see it's a spade's depth from the surface of the grass, and obviously the beds sit a bit lower than the grass, so it really isn't a huge amount of soil to play with. Excuse me. This one for the side, not quite so deep. Let's join it up in the corner. Oh, ow. Gosh, it is a bit of a huffing and puffing day, but a little bit more out. Gosh, I haven't gone down this deep in my beds since I first arrived on this site, however many years ago, and I double dug the first couple of beds. That's another rock in the way, and quickly decided to stop double digging because I was bringing up too much of that clay. Oh la la. you can actually buy raspberry guards when you're looking in your catalogues at your raspberry suppliers. You will see them advertised. In an ideal world, is that enough depth? Yeah, in an ideal world, I'd have these going down 2 feet. Is that enough? But I don't live in an ideal world. Do you know what? I think I want to put them all about an inch deeper, just so I've got access to the edge for my strimming and trimming. But that's going to, oh, and I found a bit more raspberry. That's going to take me a while. So let's leave it at that for now. And I'll show you when I'm done. Oh, phew, I'm so glad that's done. That's been a sort of on the to-do list for absolutely ages. So yeah, you can just about see the tops of the slates. Obviously, if there comes a point when I leave this plot, leave this site, if I move away from London, I'll just let the committee remind people that there are slates in here, because the last thing I'd want is for someone to try and maybe cut into the path or whatever and go down into it and even sort of ram their hand onto it and slice themselves. So anyway, yes. Oh, that was a bit of a huffer and a puffer. I managed to get loads and loads of raspberry root out. I don't know if I've got it all out, but just like with the bindweed, I'm sure what I've done today is enough to really, really slow it down. And now I need to think about getting this lot chopped. All the flint corn detritus is under there. Oh, look, some of it's spilling out. Get it all spread on this whole bed. And then pop back over to the, the flint corn bed. Oh, look at the colour of the celery. Isn't that magnificent? Yeah, so obviously get the flint corn bed. That's all the chopped and dropped fennel. That needs compost adding. Both of them need covering. This trench, well, over the course of the winter, I'll put cardboard, monkey brassica leaves, anything like that in. But I think for now, I think it's time for a little bit of a sit down outside the shed. Oh, look at the colours. Aren't they beautiful? Yeah, I need to have a little sit down, have 5 minutes, and then crack into the next job. I might bring my chair out here and just enjoy these colours. Oh, it's so pleasing to get these jobs done. My goodness. Long overdue. But it's like I was mentioning the other day, this is the perfect time of year, assuming you're not knee-deep in snow already. But yeah, it's absolutely the perfect time of year to have a really good look around your plot. There may be some jobs you've actually forgotten. It may be something that maybe it came up in April or May and by now you've forgotten. So, you know, give yourself half an hour or whatever, walk around the plot, almost like a snagging list, and make a list of all those really boring, annoying jobs that you've been putting off forever, and you know full well if you don't do them, we hit next spring, hit the ground running, we're mental busy in the gardens again right through till next September. Don't get to next September and think, oh, why didn't I do it last winter? Get out there today, maybe. Yeah, just get stuck in, get them done, get them off the list, get them out of your head. Yeah, boring huffy puffy jobs, but what a great feeling when they're done. So I think I'm just gonna have a quiet 5 minutes and just think about what I'd like to do next. The light's gone a bit funny, we're kind of in and out of sunshine, but thank goodness for A, a dry day, and B, that wind has gone. Thank goodness, because that was really chilly. Look, fleece, I've got my fleece off now. No gloves, yay! Right, my lovelies, going to wrap it up there. Cheerio to you all. Stay well, whatever you're up to. If you're stuck indoors because of snow now, well, you know what? Enjoy it. Enjoy being cosy. Enjoy those, lovely snug feelings you get. Have that hot chocolate. I will see you all again really soon. In the meantime, please take care of yourselves and each other. Until then, bye for now.